overall you could look at the world and see that relationship issues are a challenge for everyone. We don't just deal with men and women relationships or marriage relationships. We have children that we're having problems in relationships with as parents. We have work relationships. And so the dynamics of relationships related to me on a spiritual context, when I was going through some things years ago, to say that I needed to learn how to relate to my mate, and I needed to learn how to relate to people at work with me. I needed to learn how to relate healthy across the board. And what I found is effective communication was a challenge because some of us hold back on things that we're saying. We don't feel at liberty to speak what we really feel. And what happens is we have that information compiled in us with anger and resentment beginning to be a part of an overflow that comes out in the wrong way. A lot of people would say, well, how do you get beyond that? Because, you may not be a person that wants to hurt people's feelings, or you have, people that are non-conflict, and you have passive type of personalities. You got different personalities, and this is what you're dealing with. So when you answer the question about a person that's passive, they are also on the other scale aggressive. And so when you have a confrontation that comes up, or a person that constantly embeds information and they're not able to get that information out, what's going to happen is there's going to be an eruption. Now, getting back to my storyline, I'm just giving an example of a person that's not able to communicate with a mate. From my perspective, I had spiritual guidance that brought me out of these situations. The information that you conveyed to that individual may not be needed at this point in time. The information that you're trying to convey may be something that you actually need to learn how to demonstrate yourself. That can be hard to understand because perceptions are different. Most people come with a perception of perfection. There is a part of my book where I explain to people that in our own minds and own rights, we already have perfected situations. Some of us will say, well, no, I have not perfected it, but within us there is a part of us that says, I've already did that, I've already did this, I've tried this, and so there's no resolve to the circumstance. And this is a broad kind of format, but you can put yourself in a place. Whatever you've done, there's still a solution, but the solution lies within us. So I was telling Twyla, I'm in my master's program, and the master's program has, for counseling, has shown me that Christians 100% use spiritual guidance, Christians in private practices. But I was amazed to find that 50% of secular counselors are pulling at spiritual continuity now. They're using it in the practices because, see, when I go back and I give you the information about the world over, I could give you statistics on divorce. I can give you statistics on our children dying because the parents are not in the home. But it's hard for people to relate to all of this. So you bring it together and you combine it and you find the solutions for yourself first, where you're not dancing with your partner's confusion. Most people, they are not aware of how they are primed and pumped to come into conflict. You have people that are filled with drama, and that's not a negative connotation that I'm giving to drama, but they don't even know that they have drama in them. So we still have to go back to the basics and say, know thyself. Because if you don't know yourself, any question that you ask could be a question that you need to resolve for yourself. And, we don't really give answers. We lead people into finding the answers for themselves. I hope that's clear. All right. So I want to give an analogy of something that I actually experienced this morning. So I was talking to two young men this morning, and ironically, without them even knowing that I was going to be a part of a relationship forum, they started discussing relationship challenges. So I just kind of fell back and I started listening to the challenge they raised. And what I found, as in most cases, they were fixated on the change. Can I tell you, fixating on the change is a deal breaker? Every time we fixate on the challenge, fixate on the challenge, we give power to the challenge, which means that we put ourselves in stuck. It's like driving a car and you don't see the red light, but all of a sudden the red light is there and you got to slam on brakes. Now you can't move. There's a shaking there. Challenges bring a shake up, but there isn't a solution. And so when you look at formulas or look at the challenge, let's just talk about the challenges that could come up in relationships. The challenge could be adultery. It could be communication. It could be abuse. It could be, your spouse on drugs. It could be a young woman sent in a question that said, what should I do if my boyfriend doesn't want to get married, but I want to get married? Now, that's something right there. We're going to get into that. But your challenge could be insecurity as well, interference from others in your relationship, financial challenges, and it could be challenges with your children again. Write down this formula. Challenge plus perception equals solution. Because everybody that comes into a relationship forum or they go to someone to get answers for a relationship, what they don't realize is that their perception is going to have to change about something. I have went through things in relationships from the time that I was birthed in this world. I've been in relationships with my mother and father. My father was not there for me. What that means is that if my father was not there for me, there's some deep-seated situations or issues within me that causes rejection, and that rejection can come out in any area of my life, all right? So with the young men, they were talking about the situations with female, and another powerful point that you can write down is that you need to know yourself. If you don't go within to find the truth of who you are, you'll never find the truth that lies ahead of you, and that is just the bottom line in circumstances. You can't have a healthy relationship if you don't know yourself. You cannot have a healthy relationship in this instance if you're in adultery, but adultery has nothing to do with, in most cases, a spouse. Adulterous relationships, they come up because the individual has that act or that type of nature in them. Now, we're all combined of the beast of the field. And because the beast of the field is a part of the flesh, what happens is the flesh will stray. All right, and that's just an analogy of adultery. A lot of people experience that, but they don't know how to overcome it. It's not always that you leave the relationship, because the person that is having the circumstance or the challenge, they can get help. They have to want help. It's all about the inner man. And so I've talked to many women, and I've talked to men. I have brothers. When it comes to adultery, the act is not against you unless you partake in the act. That means that both of you are involved in this. I would say this here: people become offended because of the act of adultery. They take on a personal offense, but we have to get in our minds the perception that they have challenges that they have to overcome within themselves. All right? Any questions? Okay, so Twyla, all right. Another thing to add to that perception is that, the challenges. When we overcome challenges, we look at maturity. Maturity is represented in those individuals who study their selves, not just the relationship. You have to study yourself. Again, know thyself. Many people move into relationships having no idea that the greatest challenge they face is in relationship building. Miscommunications being effective communication is what brings a healing in relationships. Communication is done in so many different ways. It's done through body language. It's done through thought. Communication is done through speaking, and so we have different variations of communication. Moving into upsets and downsets. An upset is not the end of the world. The upset has come because there's a need for repair, all right? Whatever the challenge is, it keeps coming only because there's a need to repair that situation. And, again, many times people look away from the upset. Someone may apologize, but apologies won't be effective if we don't get to the core of that situation, all right? So in the spiritual aspect, when you're looking at that point, you're able to go within. You're able to address yourself. We have different type of religions. I don't want to offend anybody. Just across the board, to know that meditation is a way that opens up successful understanding of oneself. It's another form of prayer where we wait on God to speak to us, and it's a successful thing. I mean, Joshua 1:8 talks about it. Meditate on these things, and you'll have good success. So we have to check our minds and see what we're meditating on concerning our relationships, because here someone just submitted a question. I want to read this. It says, two people dating. One wants to marry, the other is skeptical about marriage. Should she or he stick around or cut the loss? You know, I look at this, and this is not advising. I'm just giving information from the way that I've learned, because whatever you give to someone, in that instance, you give them power over your life. If you knew when you were getting into the relationship that you wanted to get married and they didn't want to, you got imbalance in the relationship right there. If you cannot get over that hurdle, why would you waste your time there? All right? Now, I'm not advising, I'm giving you food for thought, because when you're dating to date, or either you're dating to marry. It's either one way or the other. We agree that we're only dating. We agree that we want to have children when we get married. Amen? All right. So that's why the Bible tells us not to be unequally yoked, because in this kind of situation, I would say this here, a young woman always wants to get married. Most women want to get married because that's the emotional part of women. The attachment and the love that it brings in embracing is what some women are looking for. And so women want to get married in most cases. A man might be stand backish because he has experienced some hurt or some pain, or he might realize that the woman that he's with is the one that he should marry. And so then we have a man that finds a wife. You know what I'm saying? So women have a thought about marriage. And when I look at this scripture or this, this question, I think about a woman, because in most cases they get challenged and upset because, well, you know, he doesn't want to marry me, or he's not doing it now. And what's the key to that? You either wait patiently or you take back your power and move forward, because sometimes you give people too much, and that's on the man's side too. You give too much to the individual, and there's no balance for you, and then it leaves that person feeling like they've been left out or taken advantage of, okay? Any questions before I move on to the next one? I know you guys have me on, have the audio closed down. Here's another one. This young lady says, or this young man, whoever submitted, says, do I still submit to my husband if he's cheating? I said, woo-hoo. Do I still submit to my husband if he's cheating? And here again, you need spiritual guidance, because this is where, this is where your inner man will guide you in the secure areas of understanding if this relationship is not going to be positive. It's a lot of things going around when you say if they're cheating, because diseases are out there, and that's something that the individual will have to make their mind up in. What's entailed in it? Insecurities, feeling like I have to do something to keep her or him. And so what I did write out here for you guys is the understanding of holy marriages. So marriage is a sanctity that is holy. That means that it's a whole. It's not half. It's not a piece of pie. It is whole. Whenever we allow anything or anyone else to come in, what happens is that now you got a piece. It's been cut out, sliced, and that is not what marriage is about. Marriage is about commitment and obligations to one another. It's not engrafting others into it, because when we bring others into it, we defile it on a spiritual level. Now you got other people's spirit in the midst of your relationship. And so if she or he is cheating, you need to pray, because being involved in relationships that someone else is cheating or they don't have enough respect for themselves to keep you safe means that you need to seek God on it, because you are married to him or her. All right? Let's see here. How do I maintain a relationship without premarital sex? All right. Well, again, biblically, you need the Holy Spirit in this, because discipline is required. We remember the children of Israel. They were going around the mountain, and they were going around the mountain because they could not find a solution to their challenge. Most people have issues with abstaining from sex. And so if you begin to look at the fact that you're challenged in that area and you begin to work on it, it's just like somebody that smokes cigarettes and they want to quit. Once you exercise the ability to abstain at least 15 days, you'll be done broke the habit. And then you go on and you're able to stay in the area of discipline. It's a matter of will. So it's all in your mind, all right? And prayer is the way on that one. When you receive the Holy Spirit, go ahead.
I just wanted to add to that. This is Twyla. I have in working with a lot of different young people, especially teenagers or high school students. Many of them would say, yeah, from a spiritual perspective or for religion or from church, that's a church answer. But many young people feel like that in today's society, with everything being thrown at them, that's unrealistic. Most people, when they're getting married, they have sex before. I've had some students that say, okay, well, my parents, the young lady told me, my parents want me to abstain from sex, but they had sex before they got married. That's how I got here. So, what do you tell those students?
That's a lesson.
Well, maybe not into church. Church. So you tell them, okay, well, just abstain or pray. And in the meanwhile, some of the young ladies are already dealing with self-esteem issues, and that boy is not, they don't understand yet. Okay, well, you don't have to do it. And they have that pressure to say, yeah, well, I want to do it anyway, because if I don't do it, then he's just going to do it with someone else.
Right. And so then we have to get back to the basics of teaching our young people about the value of themselves, because all of the treasures that a woman has, a young woman and a young man has, lies in their seed, in procreation. When you begin to have sex outside of marriage, whether it is a child or adult, what you're doing is adding into yourself the different entities of other people. Some of the struggles that people have with relationships right now have to do with who they've slept with. But for a child, what we have in society now in them being pressured is morality not being exercised. Because when my mother was coming up and your mother, it was a sin for them to be pregnant and not be married. Now, why do we abstain? Because there's a balance to life. When a child abstains, what they don't have to worry about is premature birthing. We can go into the statistics on that. Premature birthing, not to mention STDs. See, all of this here, this rule of thumb is a balance in life that gives each individual a safe net to keep their body clean. Because AIDS is rapid, that's a good enough reason. But if you don't understand that AIDS is rapid and you think that you are exempted from the cause of catching AIDS? Well, let me tell you something. You go ahead and have no discipline in that area of your life, and you find what happens, because AIDS is real. We could have some people that are AIDS victims that come on here. We can have young people that are contaminated with AIDS, and then you'll understand, because there's going to be some young people that are forward to listen to this. Then you will understand why discipline is necessary. It's not necessary just to hold you back from doing something. It's necessary for your lifeline. I think that that's enough said. Now, that is another teaching. Now, if you go into the area of where God is asking us to sustain, you go to Deuteronomy chapter 5, he said to love your God with all your heart, your might, and soul. And when you put that into application of your life, what happens is that you don't see anybody else important but God. You believe enough within yourself that that right man or woman is going to come, and it will line up with the word of God, because God will send it to you. If God is not enough for you, then we put the morals there. The morals were there, again, for boundaries, and that is to keep people from safety. Our young people are shacking up. They have no idea what's going on. You know, financially, they're not meeting the mark. I've worked with young women. They have 8 children living in projects, under 25 years old. If you have a child, or you're 25 years old with 8 children, you can go back to know that that child, she is a child. She's 25 now with 8 kids. She started having kids probably around 13 years old. Now, this is not to judge. It is to open the door of reality. Why should you be disciplined and abstain? Because it says sin kills. You know how sin comes about? When you overindulge. See, you overindulge and you catch AIDS. You overindulge and you have 8 kids at 25, and you ain't got no daddy, father right there to help you. All right? So I believe that that's enough for them to understand. And if they don't understand it, you have to begin to teach, because our society has said that it's okay. But that it's not okay, because the rules of life in the universe are in place for a reason. Because your friends are doing it doesn't mean a thing. You know, I had friends that they had children at 16 and 17 years old. I wound up having my first son at 20. The thing about it is that I had my own way of thinking and how I wanted to do it, because, let me see, my father had disappointed me, so I didn't want to marry a man. This was my thoughts back then. I just wanted to have one child. Okay, I'll get with somebody and I would have one child, and that I would leave it there. Well, God had a different plan for me, because he sent a man to marry me. You know what I'm saying? And so God wanted me to live a life, not just holy or holier than thou, or as the church shows us. He wanted us to live lives that was above reproach, and that would bring us prosperity and success. So when these kids are fighting against the flow, or their families or the church or the communities haven't taught them, what we have is a demonstration of issues that we have in the streets right now. Kids are killing each other, because even that 25-year-old woman that has 8 children, guess what? Her kid's going to grow up. And what influence do they have other than what she's shown them? You know, where's the responsibility of the father when these kids are saying, oh, I want to be like my kids and my peers and have sex? Now, that's what's real. Okay? So I'm going to calm them down, because, you know, you can have a discussion for young people and we can take it there. I'm not trying to beat you up, but we have to work harder at saving and working at them understanding what's really going on, and even in ourselves understanding what's going on, because I remember a young girl I used to work with, and she wound up, you know, getting involved with someone, and so she was living with them. So I did some statistics on shacking, because, you know, these things interest me. And because they interest me, I believe that it's valid to bring to an audience to get their attention. Well, you could have had that the mother was shacking, but the biggest problem in this here is that the young woman had no value in herself to understand that my treasures, you know, they're laid up in heaven. God gave me a treasure to sustain. If I give it away, what happens is that man or that young woman, we can reverse the situation. They're going to go looking for something else because the challenge is over. The challenge is over. All right? Anything else before I move on? They say, why buy the cow when you can milk it?
Hi, I have a question. I actually have two questions. The first one is, when I first came on the call, you were talking about your book.
Yes.
Is that only available through Amazon, or is it available locally?
It's on Amazon. Yeah, only.
Okay.
I don't think. Yeah. Who am I speaking with?
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Katrina.
Hey, Katrina.
Hey.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, and then my second question is, like, you know, you get into a relationship and you're actually, you know, in this relationship, but how do you move past the part where you're having issues with trust?
Ooh. Well,
And you keep
ahead.
bringing past events that have totally been moved beyond, but you keep bringing those back up. So how do you move past that?
I have too. I want Kim to address it from a spiritual perspective, and then I really want to address it from a not so spiritual perspective as well, because I just came out of that counseling situation like that. So I want to address that and give my experience on that as well. So go ahead.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, trust has to do with issues from our past. You know, we grow up in a society where all different kind of situations have happened, but in the most instances, what I found in myself and in others that I've worked with is that the trust issues were compiled from younger ages. You know, you date other guys, and that information stays subconsciously within you, and there's never a healing. And so, you know, when we talk about rejection and know thyself, the healing only comes through prayer and meditation. The most powerful part of healing comes through meditation, because you begin to go within yourself and acknowledge the pain or the issues that brought the trust issues, the distrust, and you're able to resolve it that way. A lot of mine came from rejection. It came from men that I had dealt with that were not honest and true. But see, I found that I wasn't being honest and true with myself. All of that is perception. Somebody might say, well, how did you get to that? And it's because, see, I compromised myself in so many ways in relationships, but I was learned, you know, to compromise. I hope that helps. So when we stop compromising ourselves, we're able to trust ourselves, and we can trust others. Does that make sense, Katrina?
She may have muted her phone again. She may have muted her phone again. And she could just tap back in if she needs more. But I wanted to say, just from a situation for me, I realized that I had trust issues. And let's see, I'll try to make it as short as possible. But basically, through, you know, talking to a good friend of mine who actually be on the panel on Saturday as well, I said, okay, well, how can I help? Because I kept trying to fix it on my own. I would do research and read about it, talk about it, and say, okay, I can fix this on my own. I even talked to my mom about it. And so to your point, Kim, it's true. Like, you have to go within yourself and figure out, like, what is the root cause of this and healing from it. And I just couldn't. So the same counselor that my brother goes to decided to make a counseling appointment, and it wasn't a spiritual counselor. This is just a regular counselor that I found through my insurance, and started going to sessions and realized that, okay, when you talk it out and all the trust things actually stem from childhood, something that happened to you, an experience with your parents, or it could be things that you went through in several different relationships. But the one key thing that he said to me or told me that really helped me in the situation, he said that trust is a process. So you can't just say, okay, all of a sudden I go through this and I do this and I do all the work to get over the trust. It doesn't go away right away. Trust is a process. And in every relationship that you have, there is trust. And, you know, I can just use one of my brothers, for example. You know, he's never on time. So he made him as an example because he knows my family. So, okay, well, you don't trust that brother because you don't trust him as it relates to time, but you do trust him in other areas. Well, guess what? Because I don't trust him in that area, of course, I know I'm not going to use him if it's a time-sensitive matter. But he says over time, if he were to show you that, hey, you know what, I can be on time. I am going to be on time to pick you up. I am going to be on time for this family dinner. Then you start to little bit by little bit trusting that person. Now, also, he said, know that once you kind of gain some type of healing from the trust of that area that you're dealing with, there's also triggers. So there are also going to be triggers. There are going to be certain things that you may see something that happens a certain way. Let's say if it's a male-female thing. Let's say if a guy's cheated on you a lot, and and in that process of him cheating on you, you notice that at 8:00 at night his phone rings and he never answers it, hypothetically. Well, everything can be all good. Then that phone rings at 8:00 and he don't answer it. It's like, even though you're healed or you think you're healed, you snap right back and go right back to the beginning to where you were. But just know that, again, even that is a process. So you have to find out where the trigger is, where it comes from, where it stems from. For me, I know that without putting all my business out there, it stems from a childhood, and then you just have to keep working past it. And if you want to explore with that particular counselor, his name is Doug Clem. He's in Jacksonville, and he was a really good counselor. So Kim also does counseling sessions as well, so she's someone that you can talk to as well. So okay,
yeah, trust.
Hope it helps. If not, you can add to it.
Huh? Say it again.
I said I hope that helps. If not, just feel free to add to it.
Yeah, that's a good perspective from there, and also knowing that from the foundation of the earth within us, trust has been disrupted, as you said, as children, but the key is finding the healing for ourselves, because one of the biggest things that people don't understand is that energy, it attracts. You know, if you turn the light on in the nighttime, flies or mosquitoes are attracted to the light. Okay, just a concept. And so, because you are made of light, each and every one, regardless if you believe in God or whatever religious practice you have, energy attracts things. Therefore, if your trust issues lie within you subconsciously, it's going to attract another person that's going to have trust issues as well. Anybody that, let's say, if they're we're going to go with adultery, or if they're abusive, they have trust issues. See, people abuse, domestic violence is happening because an individual was violated, and that thing continues to go on. They can't trust anybody. Insecurities, they raise up, and what happens is they begin to hit or verbally abuse people. I hope that makes sense, because we're going into a little bit of deeper understanding, and we have to remember that when we have situations of trust, we might need help, because we can't always reconcile it ourselves, you know. For me, the word, it helps me. There are a few people that I can call if I have something that I cannot resolve. But remembering the formula that the challenge is looking for a solution, it will get us over the hump, because most people stay there. You know, Katrina said, how do you get over trust? And or get the trust that you need. The trust that you need is going to be trusting yourself first. Being led by your first impulse concerning people, using discernment. You know, you might look at somebody and say, well, she reminds me of such and such. And that reminder is for a reason. It's either good or bad. All right? We're going to move on to the next question. Let's see. It says here, how do you get your husband to understand your point of view when he doesn't? And so I think that has to do with communication. And, you know, you have different variances about understanding. Perception is key. How you see things and how he sees things, or how she sees things and how you see it, it makes a difference in our communication patterns, because he might see that the dog is green and you see that it's blue. And so what are you going to do? You're going to continue to argue with the difference in the color, or you're just going to say it's the dog? You know, the part of conflict that comes out of this is that I have to be right, and it's not necessary. Somebody has to submit, and this is where I'm getting to, the fact that maybe the husband is not looking at the viewpoint because he doesn't value it, and it could be because of the means of communication that we've been using, okay? People get aggressive with their point of view, and it doesn't have to be like that. It says, how do you tell your sensitive partner how you feel without hurting their feelings? I think you can write it down, or you can get counseling so that you can get beyond the breakdown in the communication. One thing I want to advise and give to everyone is, when you have situations like this going on, never, ever get involved with talking to friends that have not successfully mastered relationships, because this is one of the biggest things that I experience when I work with people. They're listening to other people concerning what they should do, and they need to get some professional help. So the professional help being taken into instance, even with Twyla, it brought some resolve for her. It wasn't at a late date. It was at a now date. Some things we cannot solve by ourselves, and communication and finances and that are major areas that break down relationships. Any questions?
I would like to add, on Saturday, there's going to be dynamic interventions. They're part of the panel as well. And as I was sharing with Kim, you know, I've gone through a lot of different counseling sessions, and I know my husband and I, before we were married, we went through a communication style counseling that really was beneficial for us, because it's like how you were saying, how you can see, we can look at the same dog. Well, I may think the dog is blue, he may think the dog is green. And of course, if you argue, because you're seeing two totally different things, and both of you are right. It's just that the other person just sees it differently, but they teach you, just based on your personality type, how to better communicate. And they give you you can give a lot of situations and in your relationships where they'll show you how to communicate. And they've also been instrumental. That's another service I've used as well. I mean, not just in male-female relationships, but even in your family and your business. You know, how you perceive things and what your personality type is, it really can hinder or move you forward depending on how you handle it. So just wanted to add that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's see. I want to look at this question here. It says, does gender roles have a place in today's society? And so when I got that one, I kind of said, I'm wondering if this individual that submitted this question did not complete it, because we're all given gender assignments when we're born biologically. So if you ask the question, do gender roles have a place in today's society? They do. We have a lot of talk going on around right now, lesbianism communities, gay and bisexual communities. I think that it's important to understand what we're saying and how we're handling individuals, period, because, you know, we're all love. God created each and every one of us, you know, despite how we think or how we see things. And here, this is a perception again when you're dealing with gender roles. So I kind of took it a little bit further, because we all are already assigned gender roles. So I'm trying to just kind of give some understanding to this. Well, in the gender role assignments where people are changing their gender roles, I think that, you know, the Bible tells us that love conquers a multitude of sin, and it draws. And so love is the key in this situation. If the person that submitted this a question is on the line, love is key, because without love, what we find is that there's a 80% suicide rate with these people that are going through this. We don't look at the fact that they're still humans, and the fact that we can pray. Yep, I'm a Christian. I see love being the opulent solution. I was in a life of sin myself, and I'm not saying that they're sinful because I'm not judging. I'm just giving a thought on the whole gamut of the situations that's rising with this. What's happening is going to happen concerning the different gender assignments and the fact that you can change it. But God has not left the scene. And so if we look at love in all circumstances of relationship, what we're able to do is embrace the situations and the challenges that come, because they have their own challenges when they change their assignments. Amen. They have their own challenges. Life is not great. They see things different than the heterosexual. Therefore, love is something that we need to incorporate more in our relationships as men and women, but also in this, because love is what kills the sin. It changes things to be what God has said. The perception is equipped to be what God has said. All right? So those are the questions for today.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Miss Kim, for your time. And just last little bit, if there's any more questions, feel free to chime in. You can also go to the message section on our relationship forum and type in your questions there, and I'll make sure to have them answered on Saturday. Now, because we did have a lot of questions and there was a lot more that we wanted to cover, we are going to do another conference call on next Wednesday at 5 o'clock. So this one will be with Miss Kim and probably one other person as well. And we'll go from there. So continue to send your questions. Again, so if you're not on Facebook, you can email your questions to customerservice@prindlehouse.com. So that will be customerservice at P as in Paul, R, I, N as in Nancy, D as in delightful, L as in Lisa, E as in elephant, house, HOUSE.com. All right, so enjoy your day, and this is the last time I want to ask if anyone has questions. If not, hopefully I'll see you guys on Saturday at 10:30, Dallas Graham Library, or talk to you on the conference call on next Wednesday. Take care. Have a blessed day.
Okay, can I add something?
Yes. Go ahead, yeah.
Oh, they're hanging up. That they can look for me on Facebook at Kim Warner. Connect with me, and I'll put them in Dance with Your Partner, the forum there, too. All right?
All right, will you put that on I know some people hung up, so will you put that on the forum page so they can connect?
Oh, okay. All right. That's great. Okay, thanks for having me.